You aren't indecisive. You've just been conditioned to prioritize being good over being right for yourself. For decades, you traded your intuition for compliance, silencing the visceral discomfort that was trying to protect you. Every time you swallowed a reaction because it was inconvenient, every time you talked yourself out of a feeling because the logic didn't match, you were not being rational. You were being trained. And the training went so deep that most women cannot tell the difference anymore between what they actually feel and what they have been taught to feel. It is time to stop weighing logic against your soul and finally reclaim your internal truth. The quiet cost of chronic compliance. There is a version of being a good woman that most of us have been living inside for so long we stop noticing the walls. It goes like this. Feel something, then immediately assess whether that feeling is appropriate, reasonable, kind, fair to everyone involved, and if it fails any of those tests, put it away. Smile. Proceed. Keep the peace. This is not a small ask. Performed consistently over 20, 30, 40 years, it produces something. Researchers now call functional numbness, a state in which the body's internal signals are present, but the practitioner has become so skilled at overriding them that she no longer registers them. Consciously, the alarm goes off. She sleeps through it. Not because she is weak, because she has been practicing this override since childhood, and she has become very, very good at it. The faint friction you may have noticed, that subtle, unexplained tension when logic says yes, but the body feels a pull in the opposite direction, that is not confusion. That is the voice. It is quieter than it used to be, because it has been dismissed so many times that it has learned to whisper rather than shout. But it is not gone. It has simply gone underground, where it continues to register information your conscious mind refuses to process. This suppressed voice is not dead. It is buried under decades of social survival, of being the one who holds things together, of prioritizing the comfort of the room over the truth of your own experience. And the first thing to understand is that burying it was never a personal failing. It was an adaptation, a strategy that worked for a particular season of your life. The question now is whether you are still in that season, what the body already knows. Intuition is not mysticism. It is physiology, a data processing system that runs faster and on more inputs than conscious thought can manage. Before you can articulate an argument, your body has already processed thousands of microsignals, tone of voice, facial muscle movement, historical pattern, gut flora response, heart rate shift. The conclusion arrives in the body before the brain has finished composing the sentence. The physical markers of a boundary violation are specific, and once you learn to notice them, unmistakable. Sudden fatigue in a conversation that felt fine a moment ago, a tightening across the chest, a subtle change in the stomach, not illness, but something that sits slightly wrong, like food that the body is not sure about, a flicker of wanting to leave a room you just entered, a heaviness in the shoulders at the mention of a particular name. These sensations precede any decision you consciously make. They are the first draft of your response, the honest one, before editing begins. The reason most women dismiss them is not stupidity. It is that the signals feel inconvenient. They arrive in the middle of situations where feeling them would require a response that might upset someone, disappoint someone, make you appear difficult or unreasonable or ungrateful. So the signal gets cataloged and filed, noted but not acted on. And the file gets larger. What no one tells you is that this filing has a cost. The body does not stop sending the signal simply because you do not answer it. It escalates. The signal that began as mild discomfort, ignored enough times, becomes chronic anxiety. The boundary violation that was whispered once becomes a permanent low-level alarm. The things you have not said accumulate inside the nervous system as physical tension, as sleeplessness, as the inexplicable exhaustion of a woman who has not run a marathon but feels as though she has been running for years. The logic trap and the good person myth. Here is the trap most women fall into when they begin to notice these signals. They try to think their way out. They make lists of pros and cons. They ask what the logical thing to do is. They construct rational frameworks for a decision that their body already resolved 10 minutes ago. And the reason they do this is that they have been taught systematically by family and religion and culture and 1,000 casual corrections that good people do not act on feelings. Good people consider all perspectives. Good people do not make a fuss. Good people are not selfish. This is the good person myth, and it is the most effective mechanism for suppressing women's instincts that has ever been designed, because it weaponizes integrity. It tells you that listening to your own discomfort is a form of moral failure, that the honorable thing is to override yourself and do what is best for everyone else. And by the time you have been living inside that story for 40 years, it no longer feels like a story. It feels like character. It feels like who you are. What I want to offer you is a different framing. Honoring your inner truth is not the opposite of integrity. It is a higher form of it. A woman who speaks from her actual experience, who says clearly what she needs, what she will and will not accept, where she actually is giving the people around her something real to work with. A woman who performs agreement while suppressing her genuine response is giving everyone a performance. And performances, however polished, are not a foundation for genuine relationship. The visceral no that you have been ignoring is not selfishness. It is data. The most honest data you have. Overriding it because it is inconvenient is not virtue. It is a habit. And habits, unlike character, can be changed. Small practice, large return. You do not begin to trust your instincts again by making a dramatic, irreversible decision. You begin in the ordinary. The research on self-trust suggests that what is actually happening when a woman has lost access to her intuition is a degradation of the neural pathways that connect sensation to response. The signal is arriving. The pathway that used to carry it to action has become overgrown from disuse. To rebuild it, you do not need a crisis. You need repetition. Small, low-stakes repetitions that gradually reconnect the felt sense to the acted response. This is what micro-choice practice looks like. You notice what you want for lunch, not what is sensible, not what everyone else is having, and you order that. You register that you do not want to attend a particular gathering, and instead of constructing a justification, you simply decline. You choose a route home that feels right without being able to explain why. You say no to a small request that costs you something, even though you could technically accommodate it. None of these choices are important. That is the point. The goal is not the outcome of the choice. The goal is the act of listening to the signal and following it. Every time you do this, the pathway strengthens slightly. Every time you notice the sensation and respond to it rather than overriding it, you are retraining a system that was trained in the opposite direction for decades. You will notice as you practice that the internal voice becomes clearer, not louder, necessarily. It was never loud, but clear, more recognizable. You begin to know, before the rationalization starts, what you actually think. And that knowledge, the simple, unedited knowledge of your own position, is the foundation of everything else. A life built on what is actually true. The final stage of this reclamation is not a single decision. It is a reorientation, a shift in how you approach every decision, in which internal resonance becomes the primary filter rather than a variable you factor in after you have already weighed everyone else's needs. This sounds simpler than it is, because the people around you are accustomed to the version of you who consulted them first. When you stop asking permission, some of them will have feelings about it. When you make choices based on what you actually need rather than what maintains the existing arrangement, some of those arrangements will need renegotiating. There will be friction. There will be people who tell you in various ways that you have changed and who do not mean it as a compliment. This is expected. It is also not your problem to manage. The social pushback that comes when a woman stops being compliant and starts being authentic is not evidence that she was wrong to change. It is evidence that the previous arrangement depended on her suppression. The relationships that survive this transition are the real ones, the ones that can hold a woman who is actually present rather than a woman who is performing presence. Those relationships become richer. The ones that cannot survive it were never what they appeared to be. What becomes possible when you trust your instincts again is not a perfect life. It is an honest one. A life in which your yes means yes and your no means no. In which the discomfort you feel is information you act on rather than a signal you spend energy suppressing, in which the woman you are in private and the woman you are in the world are beginning, finally, to be the same person. Your inner voice was never gone. It was waiting. And every small act of listening brings her a little closer to the surface. If this reached something in you that has been quiet for too long, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. And if you are not yet on this porch, subscribe. Because this is exactly the kind of truth we tell each other here. I am Patricia. And I will see you next week.